Hello everybody, I am Jeff from Wccftech, and we're going to be reviewing Assassin's Creed Syndicate. Now, Assassin's Creed Syndicate is a very, very anticipated game because it's seen as either one of two things here. Either it's going to be the savior of the franchise that should fix a lot of the outstanding issues that we've seen consistently and unfortunately in the past, or it's simply going to be a continuation of that particular trend that we've seen. So then the question becomes, does this really actually break away from that spotty and sometimes terrible past that has surrounded the initial launches of all those Assassin's Creeds from years gone by? Initially, actually, yes, it does. Quite so. This is a much-needed departure from the previous iterations, and not just from an underlying development standpoint either. Yes, the majority of the bugs and all those glitches that were so prominent in Assassin's Creed Unity or Black Flag, those are mostly gone, thank goodness, and the performance here is actually surprisingly top-notch. But it's more than just that that's happening here. It's more than just on the surface or even underneath. It's a whole package that is improved immeasurably. And here we are once again, following the genetically embedded memories of Evie and Jacob, the twins, here as we move into the Industrial Revolution of London, a little bit further ahead in time. Now, this story follows the same overarching, epic story that began this series, and of course there's a Templar, influenced individual looking to gain control over the various street gangs of the time, and you, as Jacob and Evie, set out to counter that effect that the Templar Crawford Starrick has on the city through recruiting your own gangs to put a stop to his own evil and nefarious plans. Along the way, you'll meet a variety of historical, significant allies that can really help you achieve those goals. It's really quite interesting and fun. But of course, there are a lot of surprises in Assassin's Creed Syndicate that you wouldn't otherwise truly believe just because of the franchise that it is. It's playable, but more so than you'd think. The frame rate is actually more stable than it has been in any past game. It runs smooth. The graphics are actually gorgeous here too, and there are very few graphical glitches. The worst seen so far was a boy that was half rendered inside of the roof of a building, but that was kind of it. Nothing so strange as a face suddenly, popping out of somebody's head or something like that. And did I mention that it actually runs really, really smoothly? It's awesome and weird. So technologically, this game is leaps and bounds better than the previous iterations. It actually is well done from the inside out. And of course, from the gameplay standpoint, it's so much more than it used to be. The future sequences that you had, they used to be sort of, these things that didn't really have much meaning. They didn't really have a whole lot to do with the story. They supposedly were, but they didn't really add any value to the story. But here they actually prove to be a big part, and they give a meaningful backstory to what's going on. And of course, those secondary characters that you meet, those allies, those historical figures are very well done and actually kind of hilarious this time around. A useful dose of comedy has been introduced, finally. But more than anything here, the gameplay has actually been refined from the somewhat technical, slow, and of course disappointingly difficult combat and controls that didn't really seem to respond to precisely what you wanted from before. This time around, the combat is a little bit more simpler, but being a little bit more simple, it actually makes it more fun and more accessible. It's no longer tiring to get into those combat sequences and can be rather rewarding. And of course, the environment is absolutely massive. London has been recreated in such stunning detail, but the story is so very focused that you might forget the other parts of London actually exist. Until, of course, you go exploring. Now, the missions that you play are in some very spectacular locales as well, and they look and feel fantastic. This is a marked improvement of the Assassin's Creed franchise in all ways. So, will the great story, good character development, and great performance be enough to sway the skeptical fans who have been previously burned so much? Maybe, but then again, they might not be willing to even play this game at all. And that's okay, but just know that you're actually missing out on quite a bit. Sure, there are problems, and it's not perfect, but it's far better a start than any other Assassin's Creed, and a far better release than a lot of other games from other companies too. So, will other problems, eventually crop up as we delve deeper into the wonderful locale of London? Probably, but really until then, this game is absolutely highly recommended. It runs well, it plays well, it's fun, it has a good story. What more could you ask for? Really, it's actually a fantastic game. Ubisoft, kudos to you. This is great. Not perfect, mind you, but this is a great step towards gaining the confidence of gamers everywhere, once again. I'm Jeff, Wccftech Reviews.